So, for those of you that don't know me, I work for Sky Sports F1 on the Formula One, going to about 14 at the moment, 14 races a year. I do driver interviews, running after them as they run to the toilets, part of the job, and other bits and pieces, filming away from the track with the drivers, all sorts of stuff really, and working with Johnny Herbert, which is actually one of the joys of the job. Now, a lot of people always ask me how I got into it originally, and the other day I was talking to a friend, and he said, but how did you get into sort of TV to start with? And I realised that actually there's a lot of people now who say, get a degree, get qualifications, and I'm sorry to all the mums and dads in the room, but I don't actually have a degree, don't have journalism qualifications. And I wanted to talk about it today because for a lot of people, if you're not academic or you don't get the grades you need, it's not the end of the world. So just for an example, I did go to university, but I left after 3 weeks. I did Freshers' Week, great fun, I recommend that. But then I started the course, which was a media and communications course in Birmingham at the University of Central England. And they wanted to tell me how radio was invented, how TV was invented. And I just I wasn't buying into it, it wasn't making me enthusiastic, I wasn't motivated to go to the lectures. So I left, and obviously when I got home, my parents said, you need to get a job now. So I got some part-time work at various things just to get some money coming in to pay some rent to them. And in the meantime, I just went through newspapers and looked at job adverts. And there are loads of job adverts in TV and radio, but obviously for people with experience. But I would apply for them anyway. And I would apply for, you know, a presenter on ITV 10 PM News, you know, and they'd write back and go, yeah, thanks very much, but no thanks. But there's always a name at the bottom of those letters. There's always a name of somebody within the company. So what I did then was I wrote to that person and I said, I've got no experience, but I've got a ton of enthusiasm and I will make the tea. I will photocopy scripts. I will do whatever it takes. Just give me a chance. And the result of that, I got into loads of different places. I worked at the BBC on a programme called Good Morning with Anna Nick, which I'm not sure how many people in the room are old enough to remember, but it was like the rival to Holly and Phil on This Morning back then. I worked for ITV on a documentary series, and I went to work for Fox FM, which is the radio station up around here, purely because I just said, just let me make the tea. I got a name from a job advert, and I said, please let me make the tea, I'll do whatever it takes. And all 3 of those places offered me a permanent job at the end of it. I didn't want to work there, I'd got a taste of it and I'd learned a lot, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. But it gave me a reference point for the ITV documentary. I learned how to research stuff and how to get the information I needed. From the BBC, was looking after guests, it was coming up with ideas for programmes. And from Fox, I went there for 2 weeks work experience. The editor of the station was going on holiday, the news editor. And he said, come and make the tea and just help the team out while I'm on holiday. And there was a deputy news editor there, a lady called Jackie Leonard. And the news editor said to me, oh, you can stay in my house while I'm away, house sit for me. And I was 19 at the time, I think. And I thought, there's no way I can do that. It's a strange person's house. I'm going to do a job I don't know in a place I don't know. But I did it. And when I got there was a massive snowstorm. Now, being the 19-year-old enthusiastic Kino, nothing's going to stop me, I got into the radio station that day, and there were only 3 of us who made it in on the news team. Me, Jackie Leonard, who was the deputy editor, and one of the receptionists. So Jackie said, right, I've got to read the news today, you've got to write it. And I'd never written a news bulletin in my life, didn't know what on earth I was going to do. So I sat down and I started helping her do it, and then the war in Bosnia-Herzegovina broke. Now, there are only a few people in this room I think old enough to remember this, but if you remember, it was quite a big story. Douglas Hurd was Foreign Secretary at the time, and he was the local MP. And he was in Oxford, and he was at a pub in Oxford. And Jackie said to me, you're going to have to go. I don't know if he was local MP, but he was in a pub in Oxford that day. She said, you're going to have to go and interview him. I'd never done an interview in my life. And she said, you need to go and interview him about this war that's broken out, because there's nobody else around, and nobody can get to him because of this snowstorm. So she wrote the questions down for me, gave me a recorder and a microphone, and sent me off to go and interview him. And I interviewed him, but the microphone's shaking like this as though I'm asking the questions and he's answering them. But I get it back to her, get it back to the radio station, and Independent Radio News is kind of the network that sends radio news audio out all across the country. And they took it and they played it out everywhere, and it got played out everywhere because nobody could get to him. And because of that, I got an amazing reference from Jackie that I've carried through every job I've ever done. Because when it came down to it, and there was no other option. You had to go and do it. I was absolutely scared witless. I didn't know what I was doing, but took the opportunity and ran with it. And I believe that probably is a lot down to what I'm doing now. It's come down to that, because if you get an opportunity like that, or anything similar, no matter how scared you are, take it, just try it. Because I really believe the only things you regret in life are the things you don't do. Everything you do teaches you in some way or another, or gives you a lesson. From that, I then went on to I won a competition on Kiss FM in London, to search for a DJ competition. They then gave me a job. That led to another job up in the northwest. I then found a radio station on the south coast I wanted to work for, so I badgered them for quite a while before they let me have an interview, and I got the job down there. And then I wrote to Sky Sports for 5 years, to the boss at Sky Sports News for 5 years, saying, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. And then one day he said, come and have an interview, come and have a chat. And I walked into his office, and I told him I liked cricket. And he said, okay, you think you know about cricket? So he started to quiz me on cricket. Now, anyone who knows anything about cricket, he asked me about county championship batting averages, which is the minutest of detail that anybody would have to know in cricket. I mean, a lot of the pundits on Sky will not know these, but I'd learned them all the night before, batting and bowling averages. And I went in there and I got every single question right, because I did my research. I spent days doing it. The night before I was up till 3 in the morning with my best friend, asking me about the batting and bowling averages of every county cricketer. So he then said, if you quit your job tomorrow, I'll give you a job tomorrow. So I went back into TalkSport, where I was working at the time, and handed my notice in, and rang him up and said, I hope you're serious, because I've just quit. And then when I got to Sky Sports News, I expected to be making the tea. I expected to be writing scripts, photocopying, making the tea. And a few weeks in, I was in an edit suite, and the news desk editor came in and he said to me, did you know anything about cricket? I said, a little bit. I've watched a bit, and I do know a bit about it now. He said, right, okay, go to Canterbury tomorrow. I said, what am I doing in Canterbury? He said, you're standing at the side of the pitch giving match updates. Okay, fine. Went home, did a lot of prep, a lot of research, and the next day I had to stand at the side of the pitch, Kent against Surrey, I think it was, at Canterbury, and update throughout the day on the match. And when I came away from that, they said, right, you're a cricket person now. And they ended up just doing cricket. But it's taking opportunities and running with them. You never know where they're going to end up. I was lucky then. Sky got the Formula 1 in 2011, and I applied for it. I applied for a job on the Formula 1 with Sky Sports News. Had to go through interviews, had to do a PowerPoint. I haven't done a PowerPoint presentation in a very long time. Had to do a PowerPoint presentation and went through various interviews and got the job. And then from there, Sky Sports F1 asked me to move over and work for them full time, which I did in 2016. And now I get to go to Formula 1 races all around the world and interview drivers who are most of the time, 19 out of 20 every race, pretty grumpy. But it is an amazing job, and I don't take it lightly. But I just think if there's anything I can say to you today, it's if opportunities come along and you don't even know what they're about and you think that's not for me, just try it. You never know where it's going to end up. If you'd asked me years ago, I wanted to run a sweet shop when I was 12. That was my dream in life, was to run a sweet shop. So just see where life takes you. And if the qualifications don't come, be tenacious, knock on doors, don't give up. If there's something you really want to do, someone will see that in you and they'll take you on.